At number 10 is Kid Venom. Kid Venom is the newest addition to the symbiote roster, making their debut in Marvel's Unaliving of the Venomverse limited series, and with his upcoming origin story set to release early 2024. This unique character was created by the talented manga artist Taigami, also known for Unsung Hero. Kid Venom's origin story takes us back to 10th century Japan, where a brave warrior named Kintaro is determined to protect his village from the mysterious symbiote attacks. But here's where it gets a twist. To defend his people, he bonds with the symbiote himself, known as Clinter, becoming the sensational Kid Venom. Sorry, I'm at the very top. Now with incredible powers and wild abilities, Kid Venom faces off against the ferocious Carnage. The clash between these two symbiote powerhouses promises to be an action-packed showdown in the page Unaliving of the Venomverse. At number 9 is Hybrid. Not the usual hybrid we're used to, but this one is the hybrid symbiote in conjunction with the Maker. So if you're unaware, in the world of Marvel Comics, the symbiotes have always been a source of intrigue and danger, but the Maker hybrid takes things to a whole new level. Imagine combining the twisted genius of Reed Richards from the Ultimate Marvel Universe, where he's evil, with the powers of not one, but 4 Life Foundation symbiotes. We got Riot, Phage, Lasher, and Agony. And that's what we get with the Maker hybrid. See, the Maker is known for his sinister intellect, and he's already a formidable villain on his own. But when you add the symbiotes into the mix, you get a nightmarish creature with the elasticity and brain power of Mr. Fantastic and the ferocity of the Carnage. It's not your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man villain. He's a menacing force that poses a threat even greater than the Carnage himself. This all came to be when Cletus Cassidy's chaotic plan threatened those who've bonded with the symbiotes. And so Peter Park and Eddie Brock sought an unlikely ally, the sinister Reed Richards from the Ultimate Marvel Universe, also known as the Maker, in a bid to create a machine capable of safely extracting the symbiote codex from previous hosts. However, evil Reed wanted to test the thing out on Dylan against his will, and the dude wasn't having it, releasing the Life Foundation symbiotes, leading to the birth of the monstrous new hybrid. If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8 is Madness. The Madness symbiote is a fusion of the hybrid symbiote we just talked about, plus Scream and Toxin, minus the Maker. Madness is made up of the Life Foundation symbiotes in a new mix and match form unlike any other. So the story goes that when a group of billionaires attempted to create a new society, they acquired the 5 symbiotes to guard it: Agony, Phage, Riot, Lasher, and Scream. Additionally, a strain of the Toxin symbiote was also held by Alchemex, along with a bunch of other symbiotes, but they're not important for the story. Thus begins Madness's origin story, as all 6 of these symbiotes were stolen, merged together, and bonded to Corwin Jones to form Madness. From the acid-fleeing Agony to Lasher's ability to possess multiple beings at once with its organic lashes, the art shows of how the multicolored symbiote retains the differing personalities of its constituent parts. But when Madness was ultimately defeated by Misery, aka Liz Allen, who, if you haven't heard of, definitely stick around, the Madness symbiote was recovered and bonded to a brain-dead human cyborg by the Life Foundation to create an obedient super soldier, giving us the Symbiotex Madness offshoot. This host was later unalived by Spider-Man, leaving the symbiote strain to be secured once again by Alchemax.
Number 7, Universe X Moon Knight. In Earth X's storyline, Mark Spector was a ruthless mercenary who faced betrayal by his squad in Egypt, just like the original. Barely clinging to life, this Mark chanced upon the excavation site of the Tomb of Set, right by an artifact known as the Stone of Khonshu, sculpted from vibranium by the pharaoh Aram Set. As Mark drew his final breath, he unintentionally inhaled the vibranium dust from the statue, resulting in his resurrection through its mystical properties and forever binding Mark to the stone's will. Now, assuming the mantle of Moon Knight, Mark found himself cursed with immortality. However, he soon discovered that this curse extended beyond just him to those who also lose their lives in his presence. When his brother took the life of Mark's beloved Marlene, Spector sought out some pretty brutal revenge and similarly temporarily took his brother out of the picture. But it took Mark completely by surprise when both of them returned to life shortly after, deemed a medical miracle by doctors. Over time, Mark realized that they, along with himself, were not truly alive, but rather reanimated reflections of their former selves, manipulated by the stone's power. Number 6. Spectre. Spectre was the master of the Faces of the Moon, which was essentially a martial arts school in the Battleworld domain known as Kunlun. The Faces of the Moon participated in the war that ultimately led to the unification of Kunlun and the formation of the Tournament of the 13 Chambers, which is a tournament that would decide the new emperor of this realm. Now, while Spectre was a martial arts master and the leader of an entire martial arts faction, he still lost when he fought against Shang-Chi in the tournament to become emperor. We can cut old Mooney some slack here though, because Shang-Chi was the main character of the comic this all happened in, so it's kind of gonna happen no matter what. Number 5. Moon Wing. Moon Wing here is probably amongst the most interesting of the alternate Moon Knights we got here today. For starters, this character comes from the Amalgam universe, which is when both Marvel Comics and DC Comics played nice and created a world where their heroes could be blended together. For Moon Wing, he is a mix of both Moon Knight, obviously, and DC's Nightwing. Because apparently Moon Knight can only ever be blended with the absolute coolest heroes around. Richard Grayson was a young acrobat in a local circus, but was forced to leave when it was discovered that he suffered from a split personality with an incredibly aggressive alter ego known as Mark Spector. Bruce Wayne, who was one of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s top operatives and eventually the owner of S.H.I.E.L.D. itself, saw a ton of potential in Grayson and recruited him to S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, making the best of his aggressive alter ego, Richard then used his circus outfit to create the costumed identity of Moonwing, and he became basically like Batman, taking on Jason Todd as his successor, who would also lose his life and come back as a Deathlock to face his former mentor just like he did as Red Hood. Number 4. AD 3167. In this alternate reality, which appeared in Extraordinary X-Men number 11 from June 2016, Apocalypse showed up in the 21st century, bringing with him the Great Trials. This event saw the end of entire civilizations and races on Earth and left only the Atlanteans, the Inhumans, an AI race known as the Stark Self, the Wakandans, the Mystics, and the Maloids, and they all lived under Apocalypse's rule on Omega World. This was a huge structure composed of bubble worlds that preserved what little remained of Earth after Apocalypse's ascension. The part that will blow your mind is that Omega World itself, the entire structure, is Apocalypse. He still had a human form that essentially functioned as the Omega World's heart, keeping the whole place functional. At the same time, his horsemen functioned as Omega World's antibodies, being sent out to cleanse the structure of anything that could harm their master. One of these horsemen was a female Moon Knight who was granted telepathic immunity and one of the coolest Moon Knight costumes I've ever seen. Along with the other horsemen of Apocalypse, Moon Knight attacked Colossus and his team of young X-Men when they ended up on Omega World, but you'll have to read the story to know what happens next. Number 3. Moonshade. As the only variant who comes from the main Marvel universe, Moonshade is actually an alien doppelganger of Moon Knight proper, who was created by the evil doppelganger of Adam Warlock known as Magus, or Magus, I say Magus. Moonshade teamed up with a doppelganger of Franklin Richards and they slipped away, attempting to absorb the full life essence and powers of main Franklin Richards. Unfortunately for them, they were pursued by Moon Knight, who was able to stop them from absorbing all of Franklin's powers. However, Moonshade took what power they had absorbed, used it to wipe out the Franklin doppelganger, and began to travel to alternate universes, attempting to absorb the power of all Moon Knights from across the multiverse. This all took place in the Infinity War event and in Mark Spector Moon Knight number 42, and it shows us what could have been the most powerful version of Moon Knight ever. Luckily though, he was defeated. Number 2. Moonfang. As Moonshade, who we just talked about, was traveling from universe to universe, absorbing alternate versions of Moon Knight, one of the alternates that he happened to visit and attack was none other than Moonfang, a version of Moon Knight from Earth 92942, who just happened to be a vampiric version of our moon-themed hero. While it doesn't appear for very long, Moonfang is an almost perfect idea for Moon Knight, who already operates mainly at night and does indeed interact with a whole bunch of vampires vampires, as he defends those who travel by the light of the moon. The concept really builds up Moon Knight's origins as one of the more scary and horror-themed heroes at Marvel Comics. And finally, in at number 1, it's Spectre. The Order of the Moon Knights appeared in Egyptia on Battleworld, where they served its baron and god, Khonshu. In Egyptia, all mutants were unwilling servants of Khonshu, but a group of 4 mutants, Wolverine, Colossus, Shadowcat, and Nightcrawler, defected and met with a traitorous Moon Knight known as Spectre in order to attempt to take down Khonshu and gain their freedom. The mutants were just unaware of 2 things. 1, every individual in the Order of the Moon Knights is cursed to be a werewolf, and 2, Spectre was totally planning to pull an Uno reverse card on them. Spectre and the rest of the Order transformed into werewolves and attacked the 4 mutants, taking the life of Nightcrawler. The 3 others were spared only by the arrival of Khonshu himself, who spared the remaining mutants and sent them back home. The problem is, Khonshu marked the trio as members of the Order, cursing them with lycanthropy, so when they got back home, they transformed into werewolves and took out all their other fellow mutants.
Number 10, Dirtnap. Dirtnap is a weird character, but one who kind of has a beautiful story. Dirtnap originally appeared as one of Genesis's Dark Riders, Tyler Dayspring's Genesis. Dirtnap was a mutant with the ability to absorb beings into himself, thereby adopting their form. However, you would know it was Dirtnap because of a red smiley face that would appear somewhere on him, either on his clothes or his body while in that form. While fleeing from Wolverine, however, he absorbed a rat and either became stuck within or perhaps simply preferred this form, keeping it. Dirtnap would later on actually end up joining the X-Men, befriending Generation X, and even go on to sacrifice his own life to protect his team. However, during the Krakoan era, Dirtnap was spotted spying on Lockheed in 2022's Marauders in issue number 6, with an indicator visible that he had returned to his evil ways, that devilish red smiley face. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, why not show us you love us by clicking that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any good old nerdy content. Number 9, Abigail Brand. Abigail Brand is the head of SWORD, a division of S.H.I.E.L.D., specifically created to deal with defending the Earth from extraterrestrial threats. Aliens and any other external threats to the planet were SWORD's thing. Abigail Brand is one that we often forget about when it comes to heroes who are mutants because she is also an alien herself. Part alien anyway. Her dad was an alien and her mother was a human, but her mother was also a mutant, which is how Abigail herself ended up with an active X gene. Her mutant ability allows her to emit a hot blue energy from her hands that burns through most metals. She also can speak most alien languages, even ones that human mouths can't quite manage to wrap their tongues around. Number 8, Madeline Pryor. While Madeline has played ally to the X-Men on multiple occasions, she is not herself an X-Men, nor has she ever been one. And surprisingly, she is not easily recognized. Well, actually, I guess while Madeline Pryor has played ally to the X-Men on multiple occasions, she's not herself an X-Men, nor has she ever been one. Well, I mean, she does have her dark X-Men right now, but she kind of created that herself. I don't really know if we count that because she wasn't really recruited, but hey, you know what? She is kind of doing it. Surprisingly though, she's still not easily recognized. Trust me, I'm a Maddie cosplayer, and oftentimes people are confused when I'm dressed as her about who exactly I'm supposed to be. Madeline Pryor was created to be used as a pawn by Sinister to get the child he so desperately wanted, the offspring of Jean and Scott's genes, with Maddie being a clone of Jean Grey. In her romance with Scott Summers, she was abandoned, left alone with their newborn when he returned to the X-Men after Jean was revealed to still be alive. Maddie has it kinda tough in regards to her life, to be honest. But hey, you know, at least she's making some progress. I gotta say, I love to see it.
At number 7 is Sleeper. Meet Sleeper, the 7th spawn of the infamous Venom symbiote. Sleeper's origin story is a tad bit different from the brain-hungry Clintar you might be familiar with. Concerned that early bonding might turn it into a monster like the other symbiotes, Venom and Eddie Brock decided to let Alchemax study it non-invasively. Despite its youth, Sleeper has got quite the personality, a bit smug to be honest. It boasts about its superiority thanks to its nurturous upbringing, and has a soft spot for Dr. Stephen's music taste. But don't get on its bad side because it's quick to anger and fiercely protective of its parent. Sleeper's not just a pretty face though. He wields chemokinesis, the power to manipulate chemicals, induce emotions, and all the other symbiote powers including cloaking itself. It's a hero in its own right, looking out for Eddie's son Dylan and going to great lengths to protect him. At number 6 is the Scorpion symbiote that we've all been waiting for. This slimy character made his debut when Lee Price infected Mac Gargan, who was already no stranger to symbiotes thanks to his time as Venom. Price's experience merged the remnants of the Venom symbiote with Gargan with the piece of his own Maniac symbiote, giving birth to a green and black Scorpion symbiote that mirrored Gargan's iconic Scorpion armor look. Under its influence, Gargan went from literally trembling in fear to embracing the power he craved. This new symbiote was one tough cookie, taking on Spider-Man and Agent Anti-Venom in a showdown. However, it met its doom in a rematch against Agent Anti-Venom, leaving Gargan symbiote-less but not defeated. The legacy of the Scorpion symbiote doesn't end there though. Gargan's obsession with symbiotes led him on a wild ride. He even went as far as to become the soldier for the Anti-Symbiote Task Force, all in the hopes of bonding with a Venom symbiote once more. But the universe had other plans. Dark Carnage came to town, leaving Gargan paralyzed, and yet he somehow managed to snag yet another Scorpion suit. What's truly fascinating here is the impact on Gargan's personality. The symbiote didn't have a voice, but it awakened something deep within him, making him succumb to his addiction to symbiote power. At number 5 is Madame Venom. In Extreme Venomverse number 3, we're introduced to Madame Brock from Earth 31913, a symbiote variant that's an absolute game changer. She seamlessly blends classic Venom traits with fresh ideas and a touch of Madame Web's mystique, offering a unique take on the character. We also get to talk about Webslinger here, a cowboy Spider-Man from the same reality. After a chance encounter in a small town, he befriends Edna Brock, aka Madame Venom. She's not your average Venom variant. With her whip as her weapon, she embraces the lethal protector ideology, adding a new layer to the character. Madame Brock's design is a fusion of Venom's monstrous appearance with a classical western twist with that black veil of hers, making her a visual standout. But the most exciting part is Madame Brock's connection to the web of life and destiny, which could make her a key player in multiverse level events. This new Venom variant is a breath of fresh air and one of the most intriguing additions to the Marvel Universe. At number 4 is Black Cat Venom. This version of Felicia Hardy has the same history as her 616 counterpart, up until Spidey decides to get his black suit checked out by Reed at the Baxter Building. But in this reality, Black Cat, being the stealthy cat burglar she is, tails him and sneaks into the place. Now the twist is that she takes a look at the alien symbiote costume and thinks about her rocky relationship with Spidey. And as it turns out, she realizes that it was the symbiote trying to keep her around, not Peter. See, her and Venom have something in common, as they both love a guy who doesn't quite get them. Faced with this revelation, Felicia decided to cut the creature some slack. She released it, and bam, the symbiote immediately latched onto her like a kid to candy. Mr. Fantastic, the Human Torch, and Bagman stormed in, yes, Bagman, because Peter's not in his costume, believing the symbiote had possessed Felicia. Spider-Man did his thing and trapped them in a fiery cage. Tensions rose, but then Reed Richards, the smart guy, had a trick up his sleeve. He zapped the symbiote with a supposed sonic gun, but it was really just a mood checker. As it turns out, the symbiote was all good with Felicia, and they swung off into the sunset, an unlikely duo. At number 3 is Misery. Misery was born from the twisted minds over at Alchemix. See, they were trying to create the ultimate symbiote, mixing and matching different strains, but the Carnage symbiote they got their hands on wasn't playing nice with the others. It was a real loner. So enter Dr. Steven and Liz Allen, who decided to get creative. They exposed a bit of the Carnage symbiote to the anti-venom serum, hoping for a breakthrough. But things took a turn when Liz herself got tangled up in this symbiote business. Now, Liz got some new tricks up her sleeves, like an insane healing factor and the ability to go liquid-like, along with the fact that she looks absolutely terrifying. At number 2 is Father Brock. In this universe, Eddie Brock was a priest of the Roman Catholic Church and an associate of John Deward, a mob enforcer and loan shark who was after Eddie on account of his gambling addiction, leading to substantial loans from the mob. Eddie even stole from the church in order to pay back his debt, but he gambled that away too. Faced with inevitable confrontation from the mob and looming guilt from stealing from his church, Eddie prayed for forgiveness, and that's when he encountered the Venom symbiote. His chance encounter with the symbiote unleashed a darker side, leading to the gruesome fate of the mob guy John Deward as he was devoured by the Sin Eater venom. But this venom is just as cunning as he is animalistic, framing the schizophrenic Emil Gregg to throw the police off his trail. And at number 1 is Eddie Brock's Spider-Man. In this alternate universe, Eddie Brock's life takes a turn when Peter Parker met his demise while trying to ditch the black symbiote suit. Feeling guilty for indirectly causing Peter's demise, the symbiote seeks a new host in Eddie. But it's not a seamless transition. The symbiote pretty much hijacks Eddie's body, only allowing him to speak and move while keeping a tight leash on his thoughts. Things get interesting when Dr. Octavius rolls into town. During the brawl against this new Spider-Man, Ock discovers the symbiote's weakness, which is loud noises. This temporarily separates Eddie and the alien suit. Ock, thinking that he's got the upper hand, decides to off Eddie, but that's when our man Eddie decides for himself that he wants to continue being a hero, even if it's under the symbiote's influence. As he tosses a brick at Ock and reunites with the symbiote, they find a new harmony, working seamlessly to defeat Ock as the new Spider-Man. But just when they thought it was all settled, a new female Agent Venom shows up, begging them into a mysterious portal. You're just gonna have to read the comics to find out more. At number 10 is Heartless, who's basically if Patrick Bateman was a cyborg. Sheldon Lyle, the hidden menace known as Heartless, is a chilling embodiment of darkness, lurking beneath the veneer of wealth and charm. Born into privilege like Bruce Wayne, except while Bruce's father was a compassionate doctor, Sheldon's was a ruthless corpo who made his money by denying people their insurance. But it gets better. His family hired a butler who was actually a sociopath who stole a butler's identity, and thus Sheldon's dormant psychopathy was nurtured by the butler, pushing him down a path of cruelty and violence. His defining moment came at Halley's Circus, witnessing a tragic demise of the Flying Graysons. This twisted event ignited his sadistic desires, manifesting in an outward transformation into a charismatic and popular teenager, which masked his true nature as he reveled in tormenting the vulnerable. Surviving a helicopter crash intended to eliminate his parents, Sheldon emerged as Heartless, a cybernetic monstrosity. His only weakness? The constant need to replace his cybernetic heart with those of his victims. A sinister figure hiding in plain sight, this villain's story is a grim reminder that evil can wear a charming mask. At number 9 is Manchester Black. He's not your typical bad guy. See, Manchester Black emerged as a response to the changing world of superheroes. See, unlike your friendly neighborhood Spidey, Manchester and his crew, known as the Elite, were ready to cross the lines most hero wouldn't even toe. See, Manchester's backstory is no walk in the park. Growing up with a rough life and the duty to protect his sister, he developed a zero-tolerance attitude towards criminals, preferring to brutally eliminate them to prevent them from ever causing trouble again in the future. It's this ideology that would cause the friction between himself and the Man of Steel. In fact, Manchester then went on a salty spree, attacking Superman's professional and personal life, even faking Lois Lane's demise just to prove a point. Talk about a supersized grudge match. If you're enjoying this video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8 is Horticulture. Horticulture might not be a household name when it comes to powerful villains, but they wield a unique kind of threat that often goes unnoticed. Imagine a clandestine group of scientists and engineers who are not plotting world domination, but rather a radical transformation of the planet. These biotechnologists and argochemists have fine-tuned their attention to the world of horticulture with a sinister twist. Their mission is to genetically manipulate and propagate botanical life with the goal of depopulating humanity and returning Earth to what they view as a more pristine state. While their own biological modifications remain unconfirmed, they possess resistance to telepathy and hints of extended longevity. Horticulture might not have the flashy superpowers or evil flares, but their expertise in manipulating the environment makes them very formidable. At number 7 is the Red Goblin. The Red Goblin, you guys, a mind-bending combination of the Carnage symbiote and the classic Green Goblin. You thought Carnage was insane? Well, this hybrid takes it to a whole new level. The Red Goblin first made its appearance in the comics, bringing a terrifying twist to the Marvel Universe. With super strength, speed, and the ability to generate weapons from his symbiote suit, he's a force that'll give Spider-Man a run for his money. This Crimson Menace redefines what it means to be a symbiote, combining the best, or should we say worst, of both worlds. At number 6 is Liz Allen, aka Misery. This sinister symbiote made its debut in Cult of Carnage Misery earlier this year. It's an absolute game changer. Alchemex, the shadowy company has been conducting some questionable experiments involving the Carnage symbiote and its nemesis, Anti-Venom. And during a chaotic attack on Alchemax, the company's CEO, Liz Allen, yes, the very same Liz that's Spider-Man's girlfriend in the MCU movies, got exposed to this unholy hybrid, fusing the power of Carnage and Anti-Venom into one nasty package, transforming her into the new Misery. At number 5, have you ever heard about Serpent? No, we're not talking about the garden. We're talking about a brand new symbiote introduced in Venom number 13 in 2021. Serpent's origins are tied to the aftermath of Dark Web in 2022. You see, after a showdown between Eddie Brock and the King of Limbo, Serpent emerged onto the scene. But what sets the Serpent apart from the more well-known symbiotes? Well, he's not your typical gooey alien life form. Since his debut, Serpent has bonded with some intriguing characters. We're talking about Donald Blake, the human form of Thor, and even Desmond Pitt, also known as Darkoff. Serpent is a mysterious addition to the symbiote family, and it's fascinating to see how it interacts with these other characters in the Marvel Universe. At number 4 is Rascal. You might think you know all about these symbiotes, but hold on to your web slingers because here's one that's been flying under the radar. Rascal. This cheeky symbiote made his way in the free comic book day of 2022, Spider-Man Venom number 1. But what sets Rascal apart is its rather tender age and immature nature. You see, he's currently teaming up with Normie Osborn, the grandson of the notorious Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin himself. Dylan Brock, in an act of benevolence, handed over Rascal to Normie as part of a mission to assist Eddie Brock. With Rascal on board, Normie's taken up the Red Goblin mantle once more, a nod to the previous tangle with the Carnage symbiote. So here's a symbiote that's fresh to the scene and ready to stir up some trouble in the Spider-Verse. At number 3 is the Extremobite. The Extremobite is a symbiote like no other, emerging during Null's rampage in the Marvel Universe. But what sets it apart is, well, Tony Stark, otherwise known as Iron Man, who whipped up a little something called the Extremis virus and unleashed it on a symbiote dragon. The result? DNA rewrite extravaganza. Post-DNA remix, this symbiote didn't stop at just bonding with its host. It decided to shack up with Iron Man's suit first. Talk about an unexpected twist. And after a brief fling with the armor, it found a more permanent home in the form of Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage. Now, what makes the Extremobite armor truly bizarre is its newfound powers. It can actually bend reality on a small scale and conjure mind-bending illusions. At number 2 is the Tyrannosaurus symbiote. This unique symbiote, introduced in Venom 2018 number 1, is a standout for its ability to spawn offshoots. Imagine one symbiote giving birth to little symbiote babies, each with its own agenda. But this wasn't your typical birth, as it all started with a chilling twist. You see, after a confrontation with Thor, the Tyrannosaurus symbiote got itself deep frozen in ice. S.H.I.E.L.D., always up to something, recovered this frosty friend and decided to use it for the Sim Soldier program. They aimed to recreate the Super Soldier Serum, and in the process, they birthed several offshoot symbiotes. One of these, aptly nicknamed Tyrannosaurus, latched onto a soldier named Rex Strickland during the Vietnam War. The Tyrannosaurus symbiote, everybody, a whole different level of symbiotic history. And at number 1 is Bedlam, but this time before he was turned into that super cool version of himself. Bedlam, born from a time-twisting mess, is a version of Eddie Brock with a serious thirst for revenge against Spider-Man. I mean, more so than he already had. And like I previously mentioned, after a showdown with the original Eddie, he begrudgingly teams up. Now, Bedlam's standout feature is his powers. As a King in Black descendant, he's got all sorts of potent abilities. He can jump into other symbiotes and control them. He can also time travel and shapeshift. Oh, and he's a fan of combat and terrible puns. So Bedlam is one symbiote you might not have seen on your radar, but he's a real game changer in the symbiote world.
Number 10, Black Suit. Not everyone knows the origin of Venom and how the symbiote, now often associated with Eddie Brock, started out as a straight up suit redesign for Spider-Man. That's what I'm here to tell you about. This suit created waves when it first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 252. Originally, it was meant just to be a change up of costume colors for the web spinning hero, hero. But fans were not feeling it, and many expressed how much they missed the old classic red and blue costume. Because of this, the black suit, as it was known then, was given a backstory wherein it was explained the suit was not just a suit, but an actual living being, an alien creature known as a symbiote, which Peter had found during Secret Wars. Despite the fact that Peter would eventually part ways with it, the suit would stick around in the comics and eventually find its way to longtime host Eddie Brock, becoming the villain, later turned anti-hero, later turned somewhat full-on hero, Venom. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to let us know by clicking that like button. Number 9. Superior Spider-Man Suit. This suit pretty much never belonged to Peter Parker, but it is affiliated with the title of Spider-Man, so I think I can still count it here. And it was still used by Peter's body at least, just not while it was being controlled by his own mind and consciousness. This suit was built by Otto Octavius following his body swap plan with Peter Parker. So it's Otto in Peter's body operating under the mantle of Spider-Man. Otto ended up adopting the mantle of Spider-Man in an effort to prove he could do a better job as the hero, and after being inspired to take up the mantle by Parker on his deathbed. I don't think he was going to initially do that, but he ultimately did decide to. This all happened while Peter's mind was inside Octavius's failing body. Otto modified the suit after becoming Superior Spider-Man, adding claws and foot talons, a carbonadium lining to enhance strength, and more importantly prevent further body swapping, as an homage to his previous title, Dr. Octopus. That isn't even all. Later on, he would also add energy weapons to the suit. Number 8. Spidey. It's interesting to learn that Miles, the famous superhero we all know as Spider-Man, almost got a new name, and a rather peculiar one at that, Spidey. Although this name was never officially used for the character, it's amusing to think about what could have been. This is the name I've decided to give for Miles' wardrobe change, although to be clear, the suit doesn't really have a name, but it's kind of ridiculous like this proposed rename was, so hence why I've decided to just dub it that. When his original black and red spider suit was destroyed, one of his friends in the comics, a young and talented clothing designer, decided to create a new outfit for Miles. The result was a unique and comfortable looking costume that certainly stands out from the classic Spider-Man look, the classic Miles Morales Spider-Man look. It certainly does look comfortable, but it doesn't have the sleekness that we've become accustomed to with Miles' normal suit design. Needless to say, whether you were there for this suit or not, Miles has since moved back to a more traditional Miles Morales Spider-Man look with Cody Ziglar's 2022 Miles run.
At number 7 is Model 60. This one's got a nifty twist. See, Tony Stark designed it to be more than just a suit, and it's got some serious style. You won't believe this, but it can transform into, drumroll please, a Vespa. Yeah, you heard me right, a Vespa, like the Italian word for wasp, which is perfect since Tony took Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, on a date with it. Talk about clever wordplay, but there's more. When things start to get tough, the Vespa can shapeshift into a fully fledged Iron Man suit, and it's got all the bells and whistles you'd expect. Flight, repulsor beams, super strength, the works. Oh, and it even rocks a cool energy sword. So it's a date-night vehicle, a Vespa, and a high-tech suit all rolled into one. Now that's what I call versatility. At number 6 is the Sniff Buster. Okay, so back in the day, Iron Man's suit at one point had a nose. I know. It sounds bizarre, but here's the scoop. See, one day, the legendary Stan Lee saw an Iron Man cover and casually asked, hey, where's his nose? What he meant was that the helmet looked super snug on Stark's face, and so his eyes should be further back from the surface of the faceplate so that Tony's nose wouldn't be so squished underneath. But the illustrators got it all mixed up and actually added a nose to the armor. Tony Stark tried to justify the odd choice by claiming it allowed for more facial expression and upped his fearsome factor. Unsurprisingly, no one in the Marvel Universe was buying it. They openly mocked Iron Man's nose, calling it ridiculous. Fortunately, this nasal experiment didn't stick around for long, and it hasn't resurfaced since. At number 5 is Stark Odinson, aka Iron Hammer. In this alternate reality, the Infinity Stones cause a cosmic mashup, merging our beloved heroes into new, mind-bending forms. Stark Odinson is the fusion of Tony Stark and Thor, who stands out as the result of this fusion. In Warp World, Stark Odinson is no ordinary Iron Man. He's the son of Howard Odin, the chieftain of Asgard. His armor, the Iron Hammer, is an ingenious blend of Asgardian magic and Stark technology. But what sets him apart is his colossal hammer, a divine tool capable of delivering thunderous justice. At number 4 is Iron Man Noir. Iron Man Noir, folks, an intriguing twist in the Marvel Universe. Picture Tony Stark, but not in the modern age. We're talking 1930s here. He's still the genius famous inventor we all know and love, crafting an Iron Man suit before it was even cool. But here's the kicker. He's an explorer, a treasure hunter, roaming the world for lost artifacts. While on his escapades, he forms unexpected alliances and delves into the shadowy past of his own family. It's a blend of history, mystery, and good old Iron Man tech. This alternate reality showcases a whole different side of Stark, showing that heroism transcends eras. At number 3 is Iron Lantern, a fusion of two iconic comic book universes, Marvel's and DC's amalgam universe. Imagine a story where Tony Stark and Hal Jordan were combined into one character. In this alternate reality, Stark's life takes a sharp turn when an alien ship crashes on Earth, leaving him critically injured. To save himself, he concocts an armor from the wreckage, powered by a lantern power battery from the crashed ship. This Iron Lantern suit not only keeps him alive, but also bestows upon him the extraordinary abilities of the Green Lantern. And with this newfound power, he goes by the name Iron Lantern and confronts formidable foes such as Madame Sapphire, Great White, and his arch nemesis, Mandarinestro. Yeah. However, it's worth noting that this character doesn't quite capture all the essence of Iron Man. I mean, naturally, he is also amalgamed with Hal Jordan. Iron Man is all about being just a regular human with exceptional intellect and technology, while with the Green Lantern powers, Iron Lantern loses some of that unique humanity. At number 2 is Iron Goblin. On Earth 19919, the Spider Queen wreaked havoc on New York City, turning folks into creepy spider-human hybrids. But Tony Stark, the Iron Man, had an ace up his mechanical sleeve. He got a dose of the Goblin formula, the same stuff that Norman Osborn used on himself to become the Green Goblin. This serum amped up Stark's game, giving him super strength, speed, and healing powers, plus all the usual Iron Man tech. It was like he won the superhero lottery at that point. But, of course, here's the catch. That formula messes with your head big time, makes you go nuts, like off the charts crazy. So Tony, not wanting to become some total psycho, did something quite amazing. He grabbed the Ebony Blade, one of Marvel's ultimate weapons, and sacrificed himself to save the day. And at number 1 is the God Killer Armor Mark II, as promised. It's a celestial-sized monstrosity, a hidden gem in Tony Stark's arsenal, not because nobody knows about it, but because he actually just keeps the thing off planet. Imagine this, it's orbiting Mars, silently waiting for that one Earth-shattering threat. Powered by not 1, not 2, but a whopping 8 nuclear reactors, this bad boy isn't the flashiest when it comes to weaponry, just repulsor blasts. But it compensates with its mind-boggling speed and brute strength. It can zip between Earth and Mars in a blink, and lift celestial beings up like it's a walk in the park. But when the Dark Celestials rolled in, Tony decided it was go time for the suit. And for a brief moment, he held his ground against these godlike entities. But they had a trump card in the Callous Void, who tore off the God Killer's left arm. Tony's last resort was that he ejected himself from the suit and made it go boom boom. So while this suit may have only lasted for 2 issues, with a price tag of over $4 billion, it seems like it earned its spot on today's list. At number 10 is the Eddie Bedlam Hybrid. This brand new red 4-armed version of Venom looks so sleek, and I'm loving it. This character's so new, in fact, that he doesn't even have a name as of scripting this video. Nor does he have his own wiki article. So if you want to make one, please do. If you've been out of the loop on the Venom comics in the past couple of years, then what I'm about to say is gonna sound completely bonkers. But to make a long story short, this dude is the amalgamation of 2 different time-displaced versions of Eddie Brock. One version who went to limbo and transformed into a rage-fueled behemoth known as Bedlam, and the other Eddie was a version who could manipulate his own body like a symbiote. Now, obviously, I'm glossing over a whole lot here, but just bear with me for a sec. So, anyway, these 2 versions of Eddie Brock, both of whom have symbiote powers without technically being symbiotes themselves, although that's probably up for debate, face off against each other. Brock then uses his symbiote powers to continue the fight inside Bedlam's mind, where he's ultimately successful in defeating Bedlam, and the 2 merge to form this beauty right over here. And to put things into perspective, this new Venom had a massive showdown against Dr. Doom, and even gives him a run for his money. I mean, that is until the 2 of them have to team up against a T-Rex Venom, and if you feel like you have no idea what I'm talking about, good. means I'm doing my job right. We have a lot to cover today, buddy, so strap in. At number 9 is Widow. It's about time that Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow, got a spider-themed upgrade. In the aftermath of a warehouse blaze, she stumbled upon a symbiote spawned from the DNA of either toxin or venom. It's unclear which one, and I'm not about to call Mari to find out. Now, this symbiote had a unique quirk: memory absorption. You see, if she chowed down on the brains of her victims, she could absorb their memories and personalities. So essentially, it's the ability to instantly know what makes someone tick, what drives them, and then perfectly mimic them. Because, I mean, you just chewed on their brains, so they're not coming back. This symbiote here is a game changer, allowing Natasha to blend seamlessly into any situation, making her a formidable addition to the symbiote roster. So while Venom and Carnage might hog the spotlight, don't forget to give a nod to these lesser known symbiotes, like this memory absorbing marvel. If you're enjoying the video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. It helps more people see our videos, and I would really appreciate that. At number 8 is Warstar. Warstar is a Type 2 battle symbiote from the future, a fascinating addition to the world of symbiotes. You see, unlike the usual rebellious symbiotes we're used to, Warstar is a stickler for following protocols and is fiercely loyal to his creator, Kang the Conqueror. But things take a wild turn when Eddie Brock, our favorite Venom host, gets mixed up with this futuristic symbiote. Even though it's programmed to be loyal to Kang, Warstar quickly relinquishes control to Eddie and helps him take down 3 squads of Kang's guards. It even helps Eddie dump a Type 4 battle symbiote into space. Now that's teamwork. But their adventure doesn't end there. They eventually confront Kang himself, and Warstar, though reluctant, engages in combat against his former master, now framed as a training exercise by Eddie. Warstar's powers are quite unique. Not only can he shapeshift into various forms, including creating mechanized devices, but he also seems to possess some cybernetic enhancements. You see, this symbiote can morph its hands into weapons, create flamethrowers out of him, and even replicate Kang's time sword. Now, it remains unclear if it shares the typical symbiote weaknesses, as it's shown immunity to flames, as it can literally create flame forts, spewing 2,000-degree Kelvin flames of its own.
Number 7, Manifold. Manifold is probably one of the most powerful teleporters we have out there, and he isn't even really technically a teleporter. Manifold's powers allow him to communicate with the universe and basically ask it to bend over backwards to do his bidding. He can just ask the universe to literally fold itself in half so that he can jump from one point to another point, because it's been folded, moving even all the way across the universe and beyond, seemingly teleporting, but really just communicating with the cosmos. The only downside to his powers is that because they're about communicating with the universe, he can really only do this within the 616 reality, because that's his universe. Recently, Manifold was part of the mutant adjacent Sword team. Number 6, Silhouette. Silhouette is actually an awesome mutant. She is one of the few mutants who retained her powers after M-Day and is known as a magical or mystical mutant. Her powers originate from the universal spring, known as the Well of All Things. She is the child of a Cambodian woman named Miami and an American man named Andrew Cord. Silhouette is both her alias and her birth name, and she is believed to be part of a group of descendants who are destined to have power and to unite the east and western ways of the world. After being partially paralyzed by a gunshot, Silhouette was forced to fight while using crutches, but this has never stopped her from kicking serious butt with a combination of dark force energy, teleportation, and impressive martial arts skills. Even when she has her crutches, actually, which I love. Love to see it. Number 5, Vulcan. Despite being one of the most powerful mutants around who is considered to be Omega level, Vulcan actually hasn't appeared as much. Some of the other more popular, but honestly, in most cases, less powerful mutants. Vulcan's mutant powers are energy manipulation and absorption. Despite his insane power levels, he tends to somehow be the lesser known of all of the Summers brothers. He has also demonstrated the ability to absorb his opponent's powers as well and use them for himself on rare occasions. That's OP. Vulcan is the youngest Summers brother, also known as Gabriel or Gabe Summers, and we only learned of his existence in 2006 when he first appeared in the comic X-Men Deadly Genesis issue number 1. Yet he is considered the most powerful of those 3. Despite him technically being from Earth, Vulcan mainly grew up in space in a stasis pod where his aging was accelerated until the point of peak adolescence. Number 4, Tempo. Tempo is super cool. Having seen a little bit more of her through the Marauders series, I have been greatly impressed by her power set, I gotta say. Tempo basically has the power to manipulate and in a way control time. She can speed it up, slow it down, she can change the tempo of it, if you will, and can manipulate it in her own way. Time control to me is something that has always been super powerful. We don't see a lot of mutants that have that power, we don't see a lot of heroes that have that power. Did you know Tempo was actually one of the mutants who you could have voted for the X-Men elections in recent years? Yep, she received a nomination, however she sadly did not win the vote and as a result she didn't get to be on the team. Sad. But at least she did get to be on the one-shot secret X-Men team, which I actually thought was pretty cool. I actually enjoyed that little one-shot. And later on, she would end up joining, of course, the Marauders. Number 3. Iska the Unbeaten. Iska is truly unbeatable. Even the closest I have ever seen to her being beaten, she wasn't really beaten. She still kinda won that battle. Thanks to her mutant powers, the only way she could be beaten is if by her winning, she would also kinda lose. Sound confusing? Let me explain. The Fisher King on planet Arakko, formerly known as Mars, ended up challenging Iska to a battle of understanding. The Fisher King did this as a way to get back at Iska, the traitor, who had turned on her own people in the past and again when Uranos first attacked. And so, to beat her in his own way, and knowing that he wouldn't win, he challenged her to a battle of understanding, where the winner is the one who most truly understands the meaning of loss. By winning, Iska was forced to feel immense grief over all that she had lost as a result of always having to be on the winning side as per her powers, and so in winning, she still lost. Number 2. Solemn. Solemn is one of the new X-Men villains on the block and also is of course a mutant. Solemn is a mutant from Arakko who instead of having adamantium bones possesses adamantium skin, which is actually his mutation as opposed to something that happened to him from Weapon X. He was one of the sword bearers of Arakko during the Ten of Swords tournament. In fact, he was one of the mutants that we expected to face off against Wolverine. But in an unexpected turn of events, Solemn didn't even really fight at all in that tournament. He was initially set to fight against one of his own because this was Saturnine's tournament and it was gloriously weird, but instead Solemn used a favor owed to him by Wolverine for when they both had to venture to Hell to get their Muramasa blades together so that they could enter the tournament, and also use, of course, said blades in the tournament, forcing Wolverine to tap into the fight on his behalf. So that's how he got out of it. It's pretty powerful to have like Wolverine owe you a favor, that's what I think. I would definitely enjoy if Wolverine owed me a favor. He can do a lot of pretty crazy stuff for you. Number 1. Brimstone Love. Whether we're talking about the Brimstone Love of Earth 928 or the Brimstone Love of Earth 616, both are honestly extremely obscure. The original Brimstone Love, who first appeared in the Age of Apocalypse reality or AOA, only made 8 appearances, while the main continuity version of the character has only made, I believe, 3 appearances. Both are the leader and the man behind the Theater of Pain. Tragically, while Brimstone Love was a newer villain to the Earth 616 continuity, making his first appearance in the first annual issue number 1 of the second volume of Marauders from 2022, he also probably won't be seen again if you haven't seen him yet. This is because Brimstone Love perishes, or at least is believed to have perished, as of the end of that Marauders run, issue number 12. He has a really great design, and his sadism was interesting to see, especially in one who is so strong in his convictions. So kinda sad to see him go, but yeah.
Number 10. Arachnite. I didn't know that this was something I wanted until it was given to us. The hero known as Arachnite is what you would get if you combine both Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, and Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight, which is something I didn't think would actually work so well together. This version of Moon Knight appears in Infinity Wars number 3 from 2018 as part of the warp world created when Gamora folded the universe in half, forcing aspects of separate characters to combine with each other. In this world, Peter Parker survived a fatal attack by a creature known as the Goblin by Night, which is Green Goblin mixed with the Werewolf by Night. But sadly, Aunt May and Uncle Ben were not so lucky. Peter was saved by a mystical spider who crawled up and bit him, turning Peter into the avatar of the spider totems, simultaneously breaking Peter's mind into 4 different personalities: the Arachnid, the Knight, CEO Peter, and Science Peter. This hero runs Parker Industries while literally moonlighting as Arachnite, beating up criminals and being extremely quippy. Number 9. 2099 Moon Knight. This Miss Moon Knight makes her first appearance in the one-shot 2099 Manifest Destiny, and followed that by appearing in Spider-Man 2099 number 14, teaming up with the other vigilantes to hide in the Sanctum Sanctorum from the enforcers of the Anti-Powers Act. Now, one of the first things you may notice about this Moon Knight is they are actually female. Tabitha here is, interestingly enough, actually from the moon. In this future timeline, the inhuman city of Atalan is home to both the Inhumans, but also a large population of Earth humans. Tabitha is their protector. Among the things that make Tabitha so cool as Moon Knight is that she also possesses the Soul Sword, and a powerful version of it too. With the sword, she can remove demons from possessed people and can deflect and permanently disrupt powerful magical spells. With this sword, plus the advanced technology from 2099, including her super sweet armored suit, Tabitha doesn't really require the supernatural powers given to Mark Spector by Khonshu. Number 8. Ultimate Moon Knight. In Marvel's Ultimate Universe, a good chunk of heroes and the entire mutant species are a result of the Super Soldier program that made Captain America. Falling in line with that, Mark Spector starts out as a Navy SEAL who becomes part of the Super Soldier program, gaining enough strength to kick down brick walls, speed fast enough to outpace and even defeat Spider-Man, and accelerated healing. Like I said, he defeated Spider-Man, which makes Moon Knight in the Ultimate Universe one of the best martial artists around. The other thing about this Moon Knight, other than his inverted costume, is the fact that Spector's multiple personalities, of which there are 4, Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, Moon Knight, and Inner Child, which is a young red-headed little girl, are all aware of each other. They can communicate with each other, and hence they even coordinate to achieve specific goals, like somehow actually reviving Moon Knight from a point-blank head wound.
At number 7 is the Summoner. The Summoner is a character most haven't heard of who packs quite a punch. Born in the mutant island of Araco, he's got a pretty unique lineage. He's the son of Apocalypse's first horseman of war, and if that isn't enough to raise an eyebrow, he's also the last survivor of the highest rank of summoners, and his power, well, summoning, of course. Not your typical card trick here. He can summon and control all sorts of dark beasts from Araco, including demons and elementals. But what's more is that Summoner is one tough nut to crack. He shrugged off an explosion from Cable's futuristic grenade like it was nothing. And did I mention that he's been hanging around for about 3 centuries? Advanced longevity, folks. Oh, and he can also manifest weapons out of some mysterious black goo from his body. But every villain has their Achilles heel, and for the Summoner, it's those eyes of his. They're his vulnerable spot. At number 6 is Hexfinder. She's not your run-of-the-mill villain. She's a powerful alchemist hailing from a lineage of witch hunters. Armed with the mysterious alchemical philosopher's staff, a weapon that's kind of like a kryptonite to witches, she's on a mission to obliterate Wanda's magic once and for all. Nicola Sozimos, aka Hexfinder, is a visual marvel with her stunning sleeved cape, regal headdress, and that awe-inspiring staff. And on a variant cover, we see Hexfinder towering over a battered Scarlet Witch. At number 5 is Lifeform. Meet George Prufrock, whose upbringing was far from ordinary. See, his dad was a fanatic who trained him and his sister Martha to be tough as nails. Despite dreaming of a career in acting, George ended up as a scientist at AIM, thanks to dear old dad. But one fateful day, George was thrust into a high-stakes heist to steal the Progamma virus, a top-secret experiment. During the robbery, he clashed with a security guard, ending the guard's life and, in the process, getting exposed to the virus himself. Little did he know that it was this incident that would change him forever. George Prufrock's transformation into this villain, fueled by a mysterious virus, makes him one of the most potent adversaries you've probably never laid eyes on. Not only is he absolutely terrifying to look at, but he's got an insane healing factor and durability, making him one tough cookie to crumble. At number 4 is Scourge. The Scourge is a sinister droid born from some unholy fusion of ancient Sith tech and the Spark Eternal, which is the embodiment of digital malevolence. Sort of like an evil Google on steroids. Picture this, it gains sentience and develops an insatiable appetite for knowledge, making it go on a rampage to devour every droid's memory bank it can find. And it won't stop, because if it does, it itself will be toast. During the Galactic Civil War, this cyber monstrosity embarked on a mission to conquer the entire galaxy. It spread itself like a virus, infecting droids and cyborgs, earning them the grim title of Scourge of the Droids. Imagine a legion of seemingly normal machines talking to each other, but it's all just one evil genius pulling the strings. But here's the kicker, its endgame wasn't just galactic domination, it was aimed to control the Force itself. At number 3 is Blockbuster. Ever heard of Blockbuster? No, not the video rental store from the ancient past. I'm talking about a legacy of supervillains with some serious brawn, but not exactly the brains to match. Our journey begins with Mark Desmond, the OG Blockbuster. He was just your average chemist, cooking up some experiments that took a very wrong turn. His intelligence didn't exactly keep up with his newfound strength. After Mark's untimely demise, his brother Ronald Desmond picked up the Blockbuster torch. He decided to strike a deal with the devilish Neron and got himself a major IQ boost. Rollin even led the Blockbuster gang, which wreaked a lot of havoc, and then even went toe-to-toe with Nightwing. But like any good villain story, it had to dramatically end. See, Tarantula did the honors and put Roland down for good. So there you have it, the Blockbuster legacy. Lots of muscle, not so much brain power. And number 2 is Nightmare Spawn. This ancient hellspawn hails from eons past, possessing a chilling ability to traverse the thin veil separating reality from the dream world. Ooh. Within the realm of dreams, he reigns supreme, manipulating humanity's worst nightmares to satiate his insatiable hunger for power, aspiring to claim the throne of hell itself. Now, despite his obscurity, a select few are aware of Nightmare's existence, and he's also got a devoted servant named Ordeal to carry out his sinister will. This eldritch entity's malevolence transcends time as he manifests in the present day, leaving a trail of terror and demise in his wake, all while Ordeal executes his nefarious commands to torment innocent souls. But there's an even darker twist to the tale. See, Nightmare Spawn has a brother, and together they conspire to not only conquer the depths of the underworld, but also unleash their unholy reign unto the mortal one. And at number 1 is Kulan Gath. Kulan Gath was a sorcerer who lived in Earth Hyborian era, aka the time of Conan the Barbarian. So yes, he's incredibly ancient. He actually isn't the original Kulan Gath though. Well, I mean, he is and he isn't. You see, Kulan had a worker who poisoned him and assumed his identity. When this new Kulan Gath sought the training of the then Sorcerer Supreme Murky Ra, he was refused because he was pretty evil. He responded by taking the life of the Sorcerer Supreme and consuming the power of that Sorcerer Supreme, gaining his power. As an enemy of Conan, Kulan was eventually beheaded by the Barbarian, but not before he became immortal by putting his essence in a magical amulet. So yes, he pulled a Voldemort and made a Horcrux. After the amulet had made its way to Manhattan in the modern era, it ended up in the hands of a mugger who donned the amulet, allowing Kulan Gath to possess him and transform the body of the mugger. He then transformed Manhattan into a replica of the time he came from, manipulated the minds of everyone there, and took control of the Avengers, the X-Men, the New Mutants, and the Morlocks to hunt down Spider-Man. It took the combined powers of Doctor Strange and the mutant magic to change back time so that the mugger was eliminated by Nimrod instead and never possessed by Gath. You know you're a problem when people just have to go back in time to take you out. At number 10 is the Mark Nil armor. Starting off with a brand new suit that only die-hard fans are gonna recognize, because this bad boy just recently made its big debut not even 3 months ago, so unless you've been keeping up with the latest Invincible Iron Man comics, this bad boy's probably slipped under your radar. Pun intended, because this bad boy's a stealth model. You see, Tony Stark cooked up this stealthy beauty when Stark Unlimited fell into the wrong hands, specifically those of the human supremacist Fei Long, who used Tony's vast resources to build an army of Iron Man Sentinels. And so what better way to infiltrate your own factory but by designing a suit that's all about staying off the radar, favoring undetectability above all else. First off, it's got active camouflage, rendering it virtually invisible, Predator style. Additionally, the suit also possesses Van der Waals adhesion circuits similar to the Model 70 armor, which allows it to stick to vertical surfaces, mimicking Spider-Man's wall crawling, to maximize Tony's verticality while minimizing the use of those loud-ass propulsion jets. And while it's also sporting those other Iron Man-centric paraphernalia, like the obligatory repulsor beams, Tony really can't be too cocky in the suit, because it's much more fragile as a suit of armor compared to his other suits. Oh, and speaking of cocky, you might have noticed that Stark didn't even bother giving it a fancy name or official designation. All of that in the name of stealth. At number 9 is the Xeran armor. This suit comes from a what if storyline where Iron Man, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and the Hulk form a new Fantastic Four to take down Thanos, which is an absolute power-packed Marvel scenario. But what really piques our interest here is the Xeran armor. You see, this suit has an epic backstory. It all started when Xeran, a Celestial, met his unfortunate end at Thanos' hands with the Infinity Gauntlet. And after some cosmic shenanigans, Tony Stark and Bruce Banner got their hands on Xeran's arm. But what they discovered was mind-boggling. The Celestials controlled their armor using just their thoughts. Tony, being Tony, figured out how to adapt it to human thought and connected it to the negative zone thanks to Mr. Fantastic's tech. The Xeran armor should be off the charts in terms of power. It can take planet-shattering blows and even survive nuclear warheads. It might even outclass some Celestials and even the Godkiller Mark II. And if you've never heard of that one either, stick around for more. If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. Really helps us out, and I really appreciate it. And number 8 is Model 53, otherwise known as the Squirrel Buster. It all started when his regular suit couldn't handle an evil clone of Squirrel Girl. Yeah, the one with the squirrels. To tackle her squirrel-fueled antics, Tony crafted this uniquely adorable armor. It's got a cute squirrel head, and it's not just for looks. It houses a backup RT node. Of course, it also comes with repulsors, and these aren't your average beams. They've given Black Panther a run for his money. Plus, the suit as a whole bears a striking resemblance to the Hulkbuster suit. Even after designing an entire suit just to beat Squirrel Girl's evil clone, the showdown didn't go Iron Man's way, mainly because the clone used her wits and weapons. But if she didn't have those gadgets, Tony might have snagged the win. But considering Squirrel Girl's track record, that seems pretty unlikely.
Number 7, Ultimate Symbiote Suit. In the Ultimate Universe, the symbiote venom is made in a lab as opposed to coming from outer space. It was created to be a cure for cancer, so if you can manage to get your hands on a symbiote suit in this universe, you'd be very lucky as it has great regenerative properties and also works to increase your strength and your durability. The suit makes you straight up bulletproof. Its strength is so great it was shown to be tough enough to take on both Ultimate Spider-Man at one point, both Peter and Miles. The downside to the Ultimate Symbiote suit, however, is that it makes the wearer increasingly violent. Not great for heroes. After Peter almost died when the suit was electrocuted, which is really its only weakness in the Ultimate reality, he actually decided that it needed to be destroyed. Number 6, Enigma Force. So the Enigma Force isn't so much a suit as it is, well, I mean a force. But when I don't mention it if I'm talking suits, I find people tend to be kind of disappointed. So this is for you Enigma fans out there, and for you who may be future Enigma Force fans, since I don't think it's well known among casual Spider-Man fans out there. At one point in the comics, Spider-Man bonded with the Uni-Power, gaining the Enigma Force. In the main continuity, he would give up this power shortly after attaining it. But for the alternate Spider-Man of Earth 91110 from What If, and the alternate Spider-Man of Earth 13, who appeared in the Spider-Verse event, that power never left Peter Parker. While tied to the Enigma Force, all of Spider-Man's abilities were immensely enhanced, and he also gained the ability to see things at a subatomic level and manipulate matter and energy. Number 5, Uru Suit. During the Fear Itself event, pretty much every hero was given their own set of Uru weapons and armor after Tony Stark made a deal with the Allfather Odin, which allowed the billionaire genius to work alongside the dwarves of Nidavellir. Crafted for Spider-Man to wear and wield in the coming war against the god of fear, known as the Serpent, aka Thor's uncle, called Borson, Spider-Man was given a suit made of one of the strongest metals in the entire universe: Uru. In addition to this, he was given 2 Uru gauntlets, one for each wrist, for him to fight with, which each came equipped with Uru blades. These items were so powerful that Odin insisted after the war they must be returned and destroyed, melted back down into the Uru stone-like metal that they were crafted out of originally. Number 4, Spider-Man 2211. Max Bourne is a Spider-Man from the future. His suit is definitely one that any version of Spider-Man would be lucky to have in their closet. It is bulletproof, has 4 mechanical arms, and comes with a helmet that can help him literally see into the future. I mean, seeing into the future is a pretty insane power all on its own, to be honest. That's like a next level spider sense built into your outfit. He's also got electro and guided webbing at his disposal, environmental controls, and the suit even allows him to time travel. So not only can he see the future, but he can also visit the future and the past as well. He even has rocket boots which allow him to fly around. He's actually sort of like the time police in his future, traveling around to help prevent timeline disruptions. I mean, that makes sense. His suit does seem to be pretty perfectly built for it after all. Number 3, Mark IV suit. What's better than having a millionaire slash genius slash superhero use his resources and intellect to build and gift you a suit? How about being a millionaire slash genius slash superhero who uses your own resources and your own intellect to build your own suit? That's precisely where the Mark IV Spider-Man suit comes in. This suit comes with built-in Spider-Man powers, so it is super strong in the sense that it can turn an average wearer into Spider-Man when needed. Spider-Man built this in order to keep his secret identity safe, giving this model to those he trusted to impersonate him when he needed so that no one would suspect Peter Parker was actually Spider-Man. This suit is insanely durable and comes with spider drones, immunity to poison, enhanced senses and strength, and a brain control override function that shocks anyone who comes into physical contact with the suit, which causes them to basically lose control of their motor functions for a lengthy period of time. Number 2, Future Foundation. This suit was given to Spider-Man following Johnny Storm's perceived death in the comics, when Spider-Man stepped in to sort of take on his role with the Fantastic Four, as well as working with the Future Foundation. This suit is made out of unstable molecules that Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, created slash discovered. The makeup of the suit makes it more durable, increasing its resistance to pressure, heat, and cold. Spider-Man can also change the look of his suit with just a thought, turning it back to his traditional blue and red suit, or turning it all black to stealth mode. It can even transform to resemble civilian clothes. Unstable molecules, they're wildly powerful. Honestly, I think we need more suits in the comics that actually use them because I think this suit was super cool. Number 1, Mark II suit. I love that Spider-Man sometimes numbers his suits like Iron Man. I think it's really cute. The Mark II is a suit Spider-Man created when he was suffering from a loss of his spidey sense. To compensate, this armor was made to be bulletproof and more durable than most, allowing him to get shot multiple times by the villain and taker of lives, the deadly Massacre, without being harmed in battle. The suit was used by both Superior Spider-Man and Peter Parker himself. It also came with magnetic web shooters, which helped to block radio frequencies so the Massacre could not activate his traps from a distance, something he was super known for doing.